guess over the years, now that you are back competing again, how do you feel like the environments have changed, whether that's the urethane aspect or two-handed or anything else that comes to mind? What feels most different now when you're competing than, say, 20 years ago?
It's bowling. Bowling changed like every other sport.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to our Tour Talks, a series you guys have loved. I'm really excited to have our guest on today, Mika Koivuniemi. He did retire in 2015, so some of you that are younger that may not know how much of a legend this guy is, I want to fill you in before we start diving in. So his nickname was Major Mika, and it was for good reason. His first two titles were majors, but he's also the only player to make all four major telecasts in one season. And back in the day, he won the $250,000 first place prize at the TOC. It was a massive event at the time, a lot of pressure. He ended up almost bowling 300 in that telecast against Doherty's famous, basically 100 game. He's also the first to win on all 5 official PBA patterns. And my favorite stat is that he was 12-0 against lefties. So there's a lot of other really cool stats. The area that I'm really most excited to get your perspective on, for people that may or may not have seen it, is you had a pretty long post around the Purple Hammer topic, which is a hot topic in the European bowling scene right now. And so we'll hop into that a little bit. But again, for those of the people that have never heard of you, don't know, you have a ton of international experience as well with bowling tournaments in 35 countries. You've won in 22 different countries. You've bowled 323 different countries, including like winning in Japan and Qatar and beyond, at Vienna and Finland. And you actually retired to start coaching in the UAE. Is that right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, yeah. And so not only do you have this international experience, domestic experience, but you also have coaching experience. And that's honestly why I reached out to you on Facebook to see if you were interested, and incredibly humbled and grateful that you have no idea probably who I am or who we are, but you said yes and you hopped on. And there's not too many perspectives that have all of that we can kind of see what you think about bowling and where things are at, and let us know what's going on. So welcome to Tour Talk, and thanks so much for responding and joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's my pleasure to be here, and hopefully we're gonna have a nice talk here.
Yeah, I'm excited. So I want to just kind of get into your return. So did you come back mainly from the senior element? You felt like you could compete at the highest levels. What once you get to the highest levels that you got to, what determines whether or not it's worthwhile to get back into it or not?
I decided not to renew my contract, mostly for in UI coaching, mostly for family reasons. I've been far away from our girls for 8.5 years, and it was good time. It was good time to come back to US. And when I came back, I started to bowl more.
Okay.
And I didn't know if I'm gonna compete that level again, but I started to enjoy bowling in leagues earlier this year, and start to practice a little bit more, and decided I'm gonna bowl a few senior tournaments, and seems like after a few weeks I'm gonna bowl the rest of the season.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen some. You seem like you're already having some success. Are you? How does coaching? You mentioned that you decided to stop coaching at the UAE. How is coaching compared to competition? Do you find that you started to enjoy coaching more, or do you still enjoy competing more, or is it just two different things for you?
I think they are two different things. I love to compete. I still itch to bowl and bowl against the best and see how well I want to do. That's for sure. But I did really enjoy the coaching. I still want to do some coaching, but my goal is not to do it full time living somewhere. I rather find the teams or national team or teams that I can go and help for the tournaments and preparing the tournaments, or do some small week to 1 month stint somewhere rather
Got it.
than signing for a year or 2 years.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I couldn't imagine. Now that I have kids, I couldn't imagine being away from them for a really long time. So it looks like if the opportunity came about, you would like some type of coaching opportunity that maybe didn't pull you away from your family for so long. Is that right?
That's right. That's what I've been looking for, and I've been negotiating like 5, 6 countries, but those things doesn't happen quickly. And I don't know, maybe some places they don't want me, maybe it's not the right time, or I'm asking too much money, or whatever it is, some different places. But I feel like I will be helping something here soon.
Yeah. Yeah. How did tell me about the UAE program? How so were you there all the way up until 2023 or 2022?
I started there August 2015, and my last day was December 31st, 23.
Wow. So tell
So,
me about that program. What do you feel like you left with it? What do you feel like you accomplished with it? And what was the experience like?
first of all, it was really, really nice experience. Of course, I've been bowling in the Middle East and even bowling few tournaments in UAE. But to be there and live there for 8 years, it's great experience. I really enjoy my time, and I really enjoy the people who I work with. And I was well taken care of there. I get all the respect I deserve and everything else. So that part was great. As a coaching part, I was responsible for basically everything there. So like juniors, youth, ladies, and men's team. I had a local assistant coach, and I really like to work with the youth players. And we got developed a couple of really good guys, but the problem, like almost everywhere in the Middle East, is when they get to college age, they stop bowling. They even go for the UK or USA or studying just in UAE, but they basically stop bowling and focusing for their studies.
I see. I see. So did that make it more difficult to acquire talent for the team or
Yeah, it's quite difficult to get people stay in the program. And like I said,
okay.
we had a good when I first went there. There was like 4 or 5 really good kids, and I was high hopes for them. And basically, we lost all of them. Maybe 1 or 2 came back after they finished the college or something just before I left. But it was the sad part. But
Yeah.
there was a lot of good bowlers, especially men's side when I went there, who had really good success in Asian levels.
Okay.
So our team did really well early, and then we have a slower time. And in the end, I got a couple of older players back and a couple of new guys, and we did pretty okay last couple of years also.
Right, right. So I mean, our followers are mostly Americans. Help us understand what does that scene look like in terms of the UAE's government funds the program, or how do those programs work across the world, where we see teams like that represent a country, and then they're paying obviously yourself and a staff, and what's their goal behind it? Why would the federal government or the country fund it, and how are those programs going? Are they growing? Are they shrinking? Or what does that landscape look like?
So yeah, this is quite different program than like let's say Finland or US. It's all government funding. They coming from the sport ministry basically. They pay like coaches salary and staff salary, plus they get some kind of budget for the training a year. So basically whoever is on a team, they don't have to pay anything. And when we go for the tournaments, there's usually like a training camp before the bigger championships like Arabs or Asian or something. And these guys, they get the sports leave of they like if they work for military or whatever, they're working for private place, they get some like a sports leave, but it's basically like somehow government backed. So they get some kind of salary, even we just practice twice a day for last couple of weeks.
Right.
And then we travel for tournaments if they are on the sports leave, and they get some part of their salary for that time. So those guys have better than most part of the world.
Right.
But still all the players basically they either studying or they working. So there's not the full time. but not full-time athletes like, let's say, Malaysia, Singapore, or some of the Asian countries.
Okay, so the Asian countries, if the player goes onto that program, it's their full-time focus?
Yeah, they are full-time athletes, and they have the whole week schedule, and they get paid to be athletes. But our trainings was always evening after the working and school hours.
Okay.
We practice basically 5 times a week, but in UAE is a so large country.
Right.
So we have like Abu Dhabi where we have trainings and Dubai.
Got
So
it.
half of the players basically for Abu Dhabi and half of the Dubai area.
I see. Okay. So outside of the Asian countries you mentioned and in the UAE area, do the other international countries, does the government not fund the team, and is it like a self-funded kind of thing?
In Asia, there is a lot of government funding. How big that funding is, it depends on the country a lot. And especially when the bowling was part of the Asian Games, that was the big for many countries, like UAE when I first went there. And in the past, they even won a couple of gold medals in the Asian Games. So the funding was pretty good. The time I was there 8.5 years, we never went for Asian Games. And and nowadays I don't think next ones bowling is not part of the Asian Games. So many countries losing the funding from government because of that. So Asian Games are like every 4th year, so they are like Olympics for Asian countries. So it's really big thing for many countries there. So unfortunately, like UI funding has gone down. They got the new sport ministry and they decided to focus for like 5 sports, and bowling wasn't one of them. So those five sports got much more attention, and the rest of the sport, their funding get cut basically.
Right. So I would assume then that the more that bowling can get into, say, the Olympics or the Asian Games or things like that, the more government money would fund these types of programs, which would draw more youth to them. So I would assume if the less that bowling are in these types of large international competitions, it's probably harder for bowling to grow in those countries. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, basically that's the part of them. And of course, every country is a little bit different. And if they see that the team has a chance to do well Asian or even the world level, government always give a little bit more funding, because many of these countries, they want to see the athletes do well and get the country known better that way around the world.
Yeah. Well, that leads into the next question that I think you might be the only person in the world that can really provide the insight that you can provide, in that, you were bowling internationally and domestically and experiencing the state of bowling for decades now. How do you feel about the state of bowling internationally? And you can even break that down by Europe or Asia and versus domestic. Do you feel like bowling is kind of stagnant? Is it growing? What's your opinion of that?
Oh, that's really difficult question. But
Okay.
in US, yes, the league bowling, that part of what bowling used to be 20, 30, 40 years ago, that part going down for sure.
Got it.
And bowling getting more recreational. Bowling centers going to be more entertainment centers, having fun, and less league-based bowling centers.
Yeah, absolutely.
The good thing, I think, is the most states, high school bowling is still growing and getting bigger. Junior court is getting bigger. So I see that as a good thing in the future, and that's what bowling needs. We need more youth people, younger people in the sports and playing and following it. Then we go for Europe. Europe, there's different countries, different situation, but I guess most of them are struggling.
Okay.
They are not as good or as big sport it used to be.
Okay.
Of course, my best knowledge is from Finland, where I'm from. So I think like 1990, Finland Federation had like 20,000 members. Now it has under 10,000,
Wow.
and half of them are more than 50 years old, I guess.
Wow. Okay.
So
Interesting.
that's even, and Finland's still doing well in internationally. So they program for national team players and development for youth players. It's good, and it's partly or mostly government funding too. That also it's
Okay.
coming from the couple of different resources, but. So that's what I know well. But there's
Sure.
some countries, smaller countries, bowling getting bigger. But I guess most countries they are not as popular as a sport it used to be.
Yeah. What do
But
you?
but same thing, recreational is growing. I think more bowling center and more like open bowling center, par bowling centers open around the world.
Yeah. Yeah. That seems to be the case, and it seems to be trying to figure out how we convert all of the recreational increase that these centers have seen, and try and figure out how to get them competitive. And so
So
that leads into the other question. You're competing again, so we'll get off the international side. You're competing again, but even when you weren't competing, you were still coaching, so you were still pretty aware of what the environment was looking like. And if most coaches I talk to say, the environment kind of shapes the bowlers a little bit. Bowlers are always adapting to their environment to some degree. And so I guess over the years, now that you are back competing again, how do you feel like the environments have changed, whether that's the urethane aspect or two-handed or anything else that comes to mind? What feels most different now when you're competing than, say, 20 years ago?
it's bowling. Bowling changed like every other sport.
What's up, guys? Just a quick message to say that if you like bowling videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button. As always, we appreciate the support so much. We're growing quickly, and we can't thank you enough. Now let's get back to the interview.
And we need to adjust for that. Whatever the environment is, the best ones find a way to be best ones. There's no doubt about it. Like people ask who is the best bowler all time, and that's the Pelmo or Earl Anthony. I think if Pelmo was bowling 40, 50 years ago, he would be good. And if Earl Anthony was bowling right now, he find a way to be one of the best. So
Yeah.
that's how I see that. It's best one find a way. It's what is different for myself. I was when I went to tour, I was medium, maybe medium high level as a rev rate. Even I was 375 between 400,
Yeah.
375 most of my time. I was never
Yeah.
like a high rev rate. When I was done at the tour, I was for sure bottom half,
Right.
maybe bottom quarter of the rev rate there.
Yeah.
And nowadays, there's no reason for me to go bowl against the kids.
Right.
I cannot keep up, and it's just the reality.
Yeah.
And then we go for how the urethane balls has changed the sport. It started 10, 15 years ago when I think the Koreans basically started in internationally. They started bowl tournaments with old urethane balls.
Oh,
And
interesting. Okay.
yeah, and Korea was really big country and still is in bowling, especially
Yeah.
in Asia and the world level. There are a lot of great bowlers, but my mind and many other guys' mind, they didn't know how to make adjustment, how to follow transition, and that's how we could beat them. They were machines. They were living in Olympic campus for 6 months basically and practicing and
Right.
doing all the right things as a sports people, but somehow they lack a little bit for the understanding the technical part of the bowling.
Sure.
So I guess going back for old urethane balls, they see much less transition, and maybe they even notice, oh, that's going to make actually lanes more challenging for other people too. So like 2010 to 2014, 15, they're doing really, really good with that.
Yeah.
Using those old urethane balls, and then more people start to asking, and then ball companies start to making the 100% urethane balls again, and then came the purple hammer, and then games other balls. And now there's the generation who haven't thrown anything else than burbles because
Yeah,
they get
exactly.
more room of error with that ball. So why would they throw something else? And that's what environment wants you to do, especially when everybody else is throwing that ball. You don't really have other choices.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it sounds like the two key differences that you touched on were rev rates are much higher now than before. And then on top of that, you have this urethane thing, which I had no idea that the trend may have originated from Korea. That's kind of interesting. Um,
Yeah,
and that makes sense because I remember I'm very good friends with Josh Blanchard. I remember when he was on tour, he was
right.
talking about how some of the guys in Korea really hit on it pretty
Oh,
hard.
oh yeah, they have the higher rev rate than anybody in one hand that time.
Yeah, and so it makes sense that urethane. So let's double click, I guess, on the urethane topic. Um, how do you view it? In your post, you mentioned potentially other solutions. What are other solutions that you think could help solve the problem, or do you think that there's a problem and and urethane is just a tool that has to be learned how to be used, or should there be some kind of restrictions? We'll start there, I guess. Just what's your general thoughts on the urethane situation?
Oh, I don't think we can restrict anything that is legal. So, so that's we need to find a way to adapt for that. Whatever it is that developing some skills to deal with that. There's 8 purple hammers in 5-man team pair. So you need to find a way to do it. If you cannot throw the purple hammer or other urethane ball, you need to find a different ways to attack the lanes. What is really really challenging, I know. And even you can throw that ball, how to deal with that transition. There's most people doesn't know how to do it.
Yeah,
I
go ahead. Sorry. Yeah, keep going.
I got a good experience of that. Like year and a half ago, I was still coaching in UAE, and I went to ball Bahrain one tournament. There was a senior division, there was ladies division, there was a youth division, plus the open tournament. And during the qualification, there's 3 games, and you have to ball 2 or 3 squads, or they take top 2 or 3. I can't remember.
Right.
But then you make a finals. I made the senior finals, but they make ball senior, ladies, and youth all same time, same pairs. So
Uh,
first 2 pairs were ladies, next 2 pairs were seniors, and next 2 pairs were kids. And I was the like second pair of the seniors, and so I had to follow those 8 kids. And Middle East, there's a lot of good kids, a lot of high rev rate guys. There was like I think it was 7 2-handers and one-hander who has 500 rev rate, and they all throw urethane balls. I think it was 7 purples and something else. And I have to follow them all my 5 next games. And I think I used to be at least good to find solutions, but I I couldn't find anything, and that was like eye opening for me. I seen that part as a coach, and I always you can do this, you can do this, but when I feel it myself, I was like useless. Couldn't do anything.
yeah, yeah. I think any of us who spent a lot of time now in the urethane environment can relate. And I feel like I could be wrong, but I feel like when you're in that 300 to 375 range, even and below, say 250 to 375 rev rate range, it feels even more frustrating because
So
it feels like that was pretty good, and then you flatten it,
yeah,
and man, is it nerve wracking. But it sounds like your general philosophy is, hey, we have to keep trying things out. Manufacturers are going to try and maybe develop a product to help maybe combat those types of transitions potentially. Do you think that your perspective is common among competitors, that it's just, hey, look, I'm a high-end competitor, so I have to adapt and figure it out? Or do you find more of your peers are just like, this is ruining the game and it needs to go away?
of course I cannot really talk to anybody else, but yeah, seems like bowling is pretty divided for basically two big companies. First of all, there's other company guy doesn't like these companies, some balls, and opposite, of course. That's part of that. And then there's a motive that is a little bit smaller. It's difficult, that part, because if you are staff the other company, you probably think that's going to ruin the game. If you are staff for the other company, you think everything is fine because I can throw that ball.
Right.
So for me, I know I don't have any reason to go ball against the kids because I know I can. I can be better than them for accuracy or some other things, some small adjustments, but they will eat me alive. So I only can ball in senior level.
And do you not see urethane as much in the senior environment?
You start to see more there, but there's nobody with 600 rev rate there yet.
Right.
So I know when I spend a little bit more time, I probably learn to make adjustment to just for that transition, or at least I can keep up if I'm not running away, but I can keep up with the field and throwing urethane there. So that's how I feel.
Right.
What is the right solution? I don't know. If people have the right answer for that, I'm sure that somebody would do something already with that. That it's, in my mind, scoring pace all over the world is too high.
Right.
I think big part of that is the side kick, pins, how deep the cutters are. We get so many messages going on nowadays. Of course, part of that, there's more rev rate than ever before. There's more speed in the post than ever before. That make those pins fly. But are the pins flying more than now than 30 years ago? Are the side kicks more lively now than 30 years ago? I don't know. I feel like they are.
Sure. I mean, I haven't been bowling I should say I haven't been bowling with enough knowledge. I have been bowling for 30 years, but that
Right.
puts me at 6. And I don't know if I really knew what was going on when I was 6.
Right.
But definitely the last 20 years where I feel like I know what's going on, it definitely seems like more messengers. But I guess speaking on messengers, what are your thoughts on strings? Because from my understanding, it seems like with string pins, you don't get as many messengers. Does that mean that it might help bring scoring down, or will there still be the same advantage to a high rev rate? They might still just get more pin carry, or what are your thoughts on strings?
To be honest, I don't have enough seeing the string pins in real competition. I used to bowl in 70s when I started. There was string pin machines, but I don't remember that. I never bowled myself anything competitive. But I see a few, you see so many funny things happen, but funny things happens also for free falling pins sometimes, but I don't see that happening as often as string pins.
Sure.
And I'm sure string pins will get better, but personally, I'm not a fan of the string pins, especially in the competitive level. But maybe if they get good enough, who knows, they can get. I think one good thing what is possible in my mind with string pins is making the pins heavier. Because now if you start to use heavier pins, more machines have more problems and more wear and tear. So that's why they don't use the heavy pins almost anywhere. They use lighter pins nowadays.
Yeah, I remember then the PBA had those gold pins that were much heavier. So
Right.
the reason they went away from those was because they created more machine maintenance issues.
Yes, there's more problems in the machines, maintenance, wear and tear. Yes.
Wow. Okay. So I guess when it comes to deciding what to do about the purple hammer or even string pins, how does the international bowling community, I guess, determine the rules and those kinds of things? Like in the States, we have the PBA and we have the USBC. How does it work internationally?
I think internationally it's basically for IPF, International Bowling Federation. Before that was the World Bowling. And I was actually 7-8 years board member of that. I was the players committee chairman, so I was like a players representative there. So I've been sitting those boring meetings quite a long time, many times. And that's how it works. But it's it's not united. There's a lot of fight between person to person, between federation to federation, between the zone to zone. It's not easy environment, and nowadays it's been under the shake for a few years, and there's been other problems with that too. Hopefully, those get solved soon. Like my understanding, Dubai still haven't get paid by IBF for running for the World Championships Day 21. So there's all kind of problems there.
I see. Wow. Okay. So do they? And I think I saw in your post that the IBF tends to follow the rules of USBC and not the PBA, which is why the Purple Hammer is still allowed over there. Is that correct?
Yes, basically all the IPF rules being copied by USBC. There might be small minor changes, but all the basically, but as long I was there, basically everything was based for USBC. What is understandable, USBC have all the research, or used to have a lot of researches for everything.
I guess being a part of the IBF for quite a while now, I mean, because you've been a part of many organizations, from the companies that have sponsored you, as well as with UAE. Do you feel like the IBF is ran pretty well? Are you pretty happy as just a bowler in the community, as a leader in the community? Are you happy with their efforts?
Lately, for sure not. So it's a lot of problems. Last 3-4 years, there was a lot of posties and things going on. Seems like it's slowed down a little bit. I don't follow as closely anymore, especially when I'm not coaching what's happening there. But
Sure.
I can only hope it gets better.
Right.
I don't think it can get worse than it was a few years ago. So there's a lot of problems there. But let's
Sure.
hope it gets better. But there was a lot of talk to build a new international organization, but it's almost impossible because many country IPF is recognized by the local Olympic Committee. If you open the new international federation, it's not recognized by that country's Olympic Committee or sport ministries. They lost all the funding, so that's not really option.
I see. Interesting. Because I do remember there was a lot of talk and a big presentation. I think it was the World Bowling Tour. Is that what it was being called?
Well, yeah, that was like 11 or 12. 11 started, and it went for quite a long time.
Yeah, maybe it was something else. There was a big presentation that a guy did at like a year.
Oh yeah, that's.
What was the name of that? Do you remember?
I don't believe that thing, so I don't even know.
Yeah, but I was curious if anything ever came of it. I mean, it was one big grand idea. It sounds like you haven't heard any growth or anything come from that.
No, nothing coming, and it's not surprising me at all.
Yeah.
I thought everybody who contact me, I said I don't believe it. That's my personal thing, and I knew a few people who kind of was some part of behind it or associated with them, so I didn't believe it in the beginning.
Yeah. It seemed like a lot to try to accomplish. But something you just mentioned there that I did not know. So whatever the organization is, it has to be recognized by each country's Olympic committee. Is that right? To be able
to get some funding and something like that. So basically the IPF is recognized by Olympics, real Olympics. So anything under that, basically the local recognize that. So.
Right. So if there was another entity, they'd have to somehow knock the IBF kind of off of its status. Is that right?
Basically, yeah. So IPF need to be fixed, not to build a new organization. That's
right. Yeah, sure. So I guess staying on the organizations, something that has been a big debate here in the States, as you probably know, is USBC has one ruling on the Purple Hammer and the PBA has the other. And the USBC did release some of its research saying, hey, look, this is the information that we found. The PBA basically said, hey, we don't have any data to show you, but we did the testing, and the ball's getting softer with use, so we are not going to allow that bowling ball, or we're going to allow a higher hardness, so that way if they do get softer, they're still above the hardness. I guess from your standpoint or in your circles, your experience, how do you view the USB-C PBA situation? Do you lean more towards the PBA, or do you lean more towards the USB-C because they have the data? Um,
It's I don't know enough. I know
Me
some
neither.
some stuff, and I know Neil Stremmer well. He used to be USB-C. Now he's in PPA. He used to be in the World Bowling same time I was basically. So he's smart guy. I kind of believe him in many things, but I haven't seen all the data. I talked to him when I saw him World Series of Bowling, and eye test tells you something that Purple Hammer, whatever reason, it's stronger than any other urethane ball. And that, it's reached earlier and it reached mid lane better than anything else. So is that the bigger footprint? Is that because it's softer? Yes, we know 16, 17, those were softer ones when they left for
Yeah,
factory.
sure.
But after that, they've been 72. Like my problem is when the rule changed that ball manufacturers are responsible to hardness the bowling balls.
Yeah,
And they stopped to measure the hardness of bowling balls.
yeah,
I understand the T-SOR measurement. It's not the best possible way to do it. I don't know what's the right one. I'm not the expert.
right.
But the softness rule was put there for the reason back in the day. And the number was there for a reason because I guess after that the footprint gets bigger. Even it was not urethane balls, then I was the plastic or rubber balls, whatever they were. And all happened because McQueen sold the balls back in the tour and make the ball hook more than, and then Columbia started to make those bleeder balls and all that stuff. So there's the reason why that
Yeah.
hardness rule is there.
Do you feel like kind of either USB-C or the manufacturers were maybe a little asleep at the wheel during that time period where it seemed like they weren't managing hardness? Is kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, and nobody checking any tournament. And I guess that moment they were more focused for the course and
Yeah.
flare and differential, whatever extra holes, and nobody really care about hardness of the ball. Seems like it's not mean so much,
Yeah.
and it start to mean now, I guess.
Yeah. That
And for sure, people see the different numbers for different balls. It's not only purple. But I guess there's some pitch blacks what are a little bit softer, whatever reason they are like that. And I know, and I see I think even YouTube had the video of somebody try to soften the urethane balls by soaking them.
yeah.
So who says that, let's say, some country like, let's say, from Mars,
Yeah. Yeah.
they coming for the championships, and if they win these championships, everybody gets the retirement for the life if they win the gold. So
Yeah.
why wouldn't we soak the balls if that,
Right.
because nobody checked the hardness in the championships, and if that, even it's whatever ball it is, even it's a reactive ball, plastic ball, if we can make this 50 D-SOR and we can hook it and nobody checked that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's benefit us rest of our life.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
so so that's something which somehow we need to start to measure the hardness or footprint or something and this all gonna go away if every ball is in a legal, then we need to find a way to deal it, whatever the environment is.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, to me, that's a message that both sides of the debate can kind of get behind because um, essentially, really, what you're saying is that the product can change quite a bit from manufacturing and initial approval. I mean, that's kind of the idea behind the purple is that with use, the ball gets softer. And so, why wouldn't you want to check at at the point of competition as much as you can to ensure that products haven't been manipulated at all? It's pretty much what you're saying, right?
Right, and it's, I don't know, some people say it can get softer, some people say it gets softer. I know some people, they check them, they've been sitting for years in itself, and they check them, and they are under 70, even they're supposed to be 72 or 73. And some people say that number's going to be lower because there's the oil and needle, and it goes easier to in there. But if there's no ever oil in the ball, I'm not the right person to answer what's the right. I'm not chemist. I don't know.
Yeah, me neither.
I don't even know. Can you make urethane softer by soaking it? I know plastic you can. So I don't know.
Yeah, same here. I'm not either, but for the viewers, if you guys haven't kind of followed along that debate, the issue is and you saw a lot of this from Storm when they had some balls that were banned. They had videos that showed kind of how bad the process is of using the durometer to kind of get hardness. And my understanding, take it for what it's worth, is it's not a great process. There's a lot of variance in it. The configuration of the durometer, how hard you press, when the needle goes down, is there debris or anything that's left over for the next ball? It'll impact the reading on the next ball. And then when I talk to USB-C, they say, well, we outlined all of those issues in our research, and then we set this rating. And so if our research communicated to everyone that there's all these issues, then they need to manufacture taking into account all those issues. But it's not really a great answer in my mind, and I think really what Mika is saying as well is that it would be better if we had a much better process to determine hardness, to really know what it really is. It isn't so much at the mercy of all these variables. And then even better if you could make it somehow cost effective, so you could do it at the point of competition as well. Then if this purple hammer with use has gotten really softer, it can maybe be caught at the start of competition. Is that right, Mika?
Yeah. And some people say I think some research they did that before they start the ball it was right hardness, and after they finish, it was softer.
Yeah.
Is that possible? Some people say it's not even possible. But is that because the T-saw and the measurement style is wrong? But people get this idea that it's getting softer, and everybody say, but plus also the eye test show that. Is that some other technology? It's not only the surface. There's something else different from that ball than anything else. And of course, hammer will not let anybody know what it is because.
Yeah, exactly. I always, anytime I see Randy Tightloff, I don't even know if he was really the brains behind the operation, but I think you worked with Randy a little bit at EBI.
Yes, I did.
And I was like, man, he's got to get some type of retirement compensation package for that purple hammer.
Sure.
But yeah, exactly. We don't really know, but I think as bowlers, to your point, the eye test is really important. And no matter how much the expert tells us that it either is getting softer or harder, or it isn't, we can watch a purple hammer go down the lane and know that it's something different for sure.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not nearly as good as you, and I can tell that for sure.
Right, and it might be something else. Might be there is something they figure it out. Nobody else haven't figured it out yet.
Right.
And actually, when you're looking for that Black Hammer 78D, that looks pretty good too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks more like a real urethane ball, old school urethane ball. It's not reading as strong the mid lane, but still, it's giving you the benefits of the urethane ball, especially when you get the higher rev rate, they can make the ball look extremely good. The same as the Storm 78 with the IQ too.
Right.
So the hardness change to 78 will not take the urethanes away.
That was going to be my next question is, if the purple hammer was still allowed in PBA on the domestic side, would you still see total urethane use just as high as it is now with the Black Hammer and the IQ78, you think? Like, has the rule change made it where you think less urethane is being used?
I think we would see more purple hammers than those balls for sure.
Yeah.
Because you can use it in any pattern. Now I see people getting away from the urethanes. A few times I see in a virtually for bowling. So I think that purple hammer, it's just reading earlier and stronger in the mid lane and give you that control and hits really well too, even with the carry down. The people
Yeah.
who know how to use it. Not for me, but people who know how to use it, they can make that
Yeah,
hit, hit long.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you want to know how to get 9 with urethane, I'm your guy. I
yeah.
can, I can, I can teach you. I can teach you that. So the other thing I wanted to touch on was the bowling community, like your friendships and relationships over the years. Like I know you roomed with Barnesy for a long time. Are you guys still close? And talk to me about that aspect of bowling. You know, that's kind of unique, the community and
Yeah,
it's meant to you over the years.
yeah. It for sure. It's unique, and it's like I said. I've been bowling 35 countries at least tournament and coaching a few others. It's a great community. I have a friends from 80s I met somewhere, and like at first I start to see people from US, I guess 91, and I still know those people. Some of them are still friends from 90s, like Barnes. I see him early 90s first time somewhere in Asia. Then we get good friends when I moved 96 to US, and he's actually godfather of my younger daughter. So
Oh,
yes, we are pretty close friends. And now when I bowling more, I'm sure we're gonna see each other much more, talk more.
yeah,
And I have friends from Asia, from Europe, of course,
yeah.
from Finland. Even when I was growing up and bowling together, we're still friends from that era. So
What do you think made you connect or click more with Barnes than anyone else once you started coming to the States more?
I don't know. I think we both are really competitive, and we had similar goals, and we were wanting to beat each other. Like, of course, we want to beat everybody always, but I think we focused the right things. When we were in the tour, we were there to try to make a living and make a living for our families and not party and whatever. We were there to bowl. And some days after some squad, we go back to room and we talk a lot. What you see, what we think, blah blah blah, and what we should do tomorrow. And some days we went back to room and 2 hours nobody say any word. It's like both were so pissed off for what the reason, or other one was so pissed off, and so other one know that
Yeah.
we don't
Do
need to
you?
talk about it. So
Yeah, yeah, totally. I've traveled enough with people that yeah, there's sometimes some tournaments where it's a very quiet ride home,
yeah,
for sure. Do you feel like you were able to share knowledge or perspective from your international experience that helped him become the player he is, or vice versa? Do you guys feel like it was pretty equal how you guys helped teach each other?
I think it's pretty equal. And Barnes was pretty experienced overseas international player too. He was playing with the
Yeah,
Team USA and even open tournaments around the world. So he had much more experience than most of the bowlers from US.
yeah,
So, but I think we both help each other to get better, and we look in the same thing. We look in the same kind of shape. We look into same kind of solutions. We do it totally different because our ball rolls are different. We basically
sure.
we don't use the same ball
Right, right,
hardly ever at the same time, but we looking to use same kind of shape
right,
and how we want to get ball through the pins, how we want to shape it, how we want to shape it. We
right.
just do it a different way. So that's why we just talk about more for that, not necessary for what ball it should be. It's more about the shapes and the ways to do it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I want to hop in to that a little bit more later and really start picking your brain as a coach, for the viewers that really want to know how do you try to coach and teach ball motion and arsenals and those kinds of things. But staying on the Barnes topic and the relationships from bowling, do you now live here in the States or do you still live in Finland? And tell me what you like to enjoy about living or being in each area.
So basically, we moved to US '96. after that, I haven't basically have any house, nothing in Finland. Yes, we went back for a little bit, 2000, but most of the time I was still in US. And after 2001, we've been here in States. And yes, 8.5 years I was in UAE, Dubai, and my wife was there last 4.5 years. When our youngest one went to college, so my wife also came to Dubai that time.
Mm.
But I feel like I will stay rest of my life in US, especially because our kids are here. That's the main reason. I don't see them. They are much more US than Finnish girls, and we are fortunately to have all of us dual citizenship, so we have two passports.
Right.
So it's easy for us to choose where we are.
Yeah, totally.
Every country has good and bad things. There's no perfect place
Sure.
in a life, in a bowling, in anything. Yeah. But there's much more opportunities in bowling, of course, in US than, let's say,
Yeah.
in Finland or Europe or Middle East.
Yeah.
For sure.
Is what made your girls enjoy the U.S. a lot more than Finland? It was just because they spent a lot more time here, or?
Yeah, my oldest one was like 2.5 when we moved here first. So they've been growing in US environment, not in Finnish.
Sure.
So they are much more US citizens than Finnish citizens. But of course, we teach them a lot of Finnish traditions, and we try to speak Finnish when we are home. Even our girls, they most of the time they answer English, but
Yeah.
they both can speak and they both understand really well Finnish, so they can communicate a little bit with their grandparents and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
I have 5-year-old boys, and we've been thinking about whether or not to put them in a school that also teaches Spanish because I'm in Arizona, and there's a big benefit to be able to learn Spanish here. But that's cool. Um, you can certainly pass on this question, but it being an election year, I like to try to maybe sprinkle in a little positivity. Someone with all the international experience that you have, what do you think is something that maybe citizens like myself that really haven't traveled much, haven't experienced as much, what is something great about the U.S. that maybe you like or your family has liked that you think maybe we might take for granted?
I think there's more opportunities here than many other countries. I think that's like for me. I came here for bowling, and 30 years, almost 30 years later, I'm still here and I'm happy here. So,
Right.
but every country has good and bad things.
Yeah.
I go to Finland. There's free healthcare. There's free education, but you pay much more taxes and stuff like that. And
Sure.
it's it's not all final, so but there's also quality of the life, quality of the air. There's many things. So
Okay.
in US, you can find almost anything. It's a big country. If you want to be summer whole time, you go south. If you want to see four seasons, you go north. And if you want to be by ocean or by lake or whatever, you find places like that. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of more options than many other countries for sure.
Cool. Yeah, and I don't want to spend a lot of time here. I don't think the viewers really care, but I'm really curious since you mentioned kind of the socialized healthcare and those kinds of things, and you have experience in it. Do you mind elaborating on, was it pretty good? Do you like that? Did you feel like you had a more positive experience with that than the U.S. healthcare system? Or, and I promise no more political questions after that.
I think some point we kind of calculated that. I think if you lived your whole life in Finland or whole life here, they break even because you pay more taxes, but you get more free stuff. So I think it's pretty equal.
Okay.
So I don't know which one is right. Which I'm not politician. And I don't want to be. So
Yeah. No, that's honestly, there's no wrong answer. It's I just like to kind of get to know you and get to know what you think. And it, for me, I find the more people have really experienced, a wider range of successes and failures and countries and cultures, the more I find that they're just really humble like you are, where like, I don't really know. This is kind of my experience. And
right.
maybe not as opinionated, but you don't strike me as a really opinionated guy.
Sometimes I can be, but yeah, when I know when I'm right, I'm for sure I defend myself.
Yeah. So let's dive into. You mentioned you and Barnes kind of seeing ball shape the same, those kinds of things. As you're coaching up skill level, especially in UAE or any other time, um, what do you feel like is that one key aspect that helps people get from being a good league bowler to, competitive on the regional tour or above? Like, or one or
Yeah.
two or three things.
Oh, first thing is like being a good league bowler. It doesn't mean anything. You don't have to be a good bowler to be a good league bowler.
Yeah, so true. Yeah.
So when you start to get some touch, go like you can do touch meaning like I can make small adjustments and not only hit cover off the ball as hard I can or always go slow and straight outside, whatever is the best style the ball league in that house. So when you get better, you learn to play left to right everywhere. That's kind of easy part. You can play first arrow or second board. Not too many guys can anymore, but theory you should be able to play straight lines there, and you can loft the left cutter. That's kind of easy part to learn. But when you start to see the lane front to back and the shapes, then
Yeah.
you get much better, and then you start to follow that with how the ball goes to the pins. In the end, you just need to knock those pins down. So
Right.
it doesn't
Right.
matter how good shape and how well we see front to back. If you flatten every time, it's still useless in my mind.
Yeah, exactly. You were talking about basically being able to get the different touches. Um, so touch is a big thing. Does that include being able to adjust ball speed, or is it really just? And when you say touch, is it different rev rates and different axis rotations,
Yeah,
or
yeah. I think it's all. The better you are, the more you know, and it's like when you get people who have really great touch, I don't think they even think too much. They just see the shape and they just know how I have to feel, change my feel to change that shape a little bit or change how the ball goes through the pins a little bit or something.
yeah,
It's like, it's just that your computer does that to you because you repeat it so much and you have that touch.
right,
I don't think you can be great bowler ever if you don't have a touch, if you don't feel things.
right,
If I can see it before you feel it, we are in trouble.
right. Yeah, absolutely. So if someone said, "All right, I want to get to the next level," should I learn everything about cores and layouts and core numbers and know all of the technical stuff about my bowling ball, or should I practice a lot of different touches and ball speeds? You would say likely touches and ball speeds.
Probably, yeah, both gonna be important at some point,
Sure.
but it's like there's still great bowlers who doesn't know almost anything about bowling balls. They trust somebody else for
Right.
that part, and so that part is easy to replace. Touch, there's no way to replace that.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's probably the right perspective, is that you have to have both, but one is much easier to outsource or
Right.
delegate. But you have to be able to have the different touches and ball speeds and those kinds of things. Over the years, is there any tricks or drills or tools to help learn the different touches and ball speeds, or do you think it's just reps, or do you have any tricks that speed it up?
I think there's some trainings what you can do to start to develop some skills, and you cannot always try to strike where the lanes are easy. You need to challenge yourself and do different kinds. I even myself, I created many trainings for myself and been using them in my coaches, and I see good results that they teach you to touch, they teach you to stay focused, they teach you to really not giving up and working hard and find a way to do things when you need to do it. Nobody's ever perfect in bowling, but
Sure.
when the percentage is your side, you are pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, has there been any coaches or any mentors for you over the years that you really leaned on a lot in terms of learning or support or?
Yeah, I've been really lucky to be many great guides to helping me, and of course, when I first moved to US and actually met Ron Happy before I even moved here, he helped me, and
Okay.
he helped me a lot to change my style quite much in 97 to 98, something like that. 96, 97. It's we work a lot, work really hard with that, and he can thank him a lot for many things. And I have a great time to working with Rick Benoit, learning a lot for him, especially for the shapes and how the ball need to go through the pins and stuff like that. Learning from Mark Baker later into my career a lot. And a lot of great tour reps. I get good insights, but I'd say those three are probably the most influential. Plus, couple of mental coaches I've been having.
Right, right. Do you have any advice for like, up and coming competitors as to, let me fix this light because this is bugging me. There we go. Do you have any advice to up and coming competitors as to who they should listen to or how they should? So obviously you had a few guys that really had an impact. How did you decide who to listen to and who not to listen to? And do you have any suggestions for people trying to get better on how to pick?
I I think the main thing that you connect with your coach. You need to build the trust both ways with the coach. Then, like I say, every coach they learn every day something when they're coaching somebody. Also, nobody is perfect, and everybody makes mistakes. Some people make mistakes less than most people, and those are usually better in the bowling or coaching or
Right.
whatever they do. So it's I think the personal touch it's good and connection is good. Of course, the more coach knows, more like I don't know how to say it. Like more the coach knows, the better it should be for you. But
Sure.
if there's no connection, it's not really matter then.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it's really just looking for experience, knowledge, but then also feeling that kind of connection. And when you say connection, is it mainly feeling like you can understand what they're saying and you can feel kind of like a friendship there, or is it more you feel like they're really in it with you, like they're, you know what I mean?
I think it's friendships works with some people it doesn't work, and also the coach need to know: do I be more friend with you, or do I be more hard for you? And that's how we can get the message delivered better.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like I say, it's so personal. Everything is whatever worked for somebody else, not necessarily work for next person. And experience is always good, but I give you three great names been helping me. Only one of them being great bowler. It's Mark Baker. He was champion and probably could be much better when without his health problems. But Ron Happy was decent bowler, and
yeah, yeah.
Rick Benoit was decent bowler. But you don't have to be champion, PPA champion to be great coach.
Right, right,
Of course, experience is a big part. So you learn a lot competing against the best, and most of the best in the they get help from the best. So they should learn at least for those
sure.
people who help them.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So speaking of that, since you were a competitor, then became a coach. I don't know. Were you ever involved with pro shops as well at one point?
When I was young kid, yes, I was. And when I was in Finland, basically 1 year, no, half year, I had the pro shop there. So
Okay.
I've been the Turbo Grip staff 29 years now, and been able to work Turbo Grip's facility, and I've been drilling probably 1,000 bowling balls myself.
Oh wow, cool. That's
Yeah,
cool. I did not know that.
yeah.
So say you have your girls or you have younger people. and they were to say, hey, should I consider getting into the bowling industry professionally? So proprietor, could be as a proprietor, could be as a coach, could be as a competitor, pro shop. Do you think the bowling industry as a profession is overrated, underrated, equally rated?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Yeah,
Of course, I love this. I get basically everything in my life from bowling, so uh, I think everybody should come, be part of the bowling.
yeah,
It's a great community, and there's a lot of opportunities. It's not going to be easy, but what will be easy?
yeah,
I think if you work hard and you make the right connections, the right time, that will help you. Are you athlete or business side of that? I
right.
think that those are the big things. Like always in your life, you need to be surrounded the right people and meet the right people the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. I only ask because I feel like, at least in my little bubble, getting into bowling is often kind of like, oh, you don't want to do that. You want to get into golf or finance or,
Right.
and I think the bowling is a pretty big industry with quite a bit of opportunity. But I think what gets lost a lot, in my opinion, is the community, which is the first thing that you mentioned. You just said
Right.
so many great people that stick with you for the rest of your life. So I was just kind of curious what you thought. It sounds like you're a fan of it as well, like I am. The last question I had was on the two-handed thing. That's the only thing I didn't ask you. What are your thoughts on the two-handed debate?
There's nothing to debate in my mind. It's that simple. It's not. It's one-handed delivery. They don't use two-handed deliver ball. They just keep the left hand or other hand longer in the helping the hold the ball than people with the thumb in. Basically,
Yeah,
it's a great way to create more power. There's a great way. There's no thumb timing issues. There's big benefits that I think you can get certain level quicker if you are talented with the two hand
hmm,
for sure. And I have a good talk with Mark Baker when I was in World Series for bowling in Detroit. He said that he doesn't really teach two-handed because they even come good or they quit. So I think there's a need for one-handed bowling to keep these leagues and small things going on, and not only the competitive high-end competitive side. I think high-end competitive side probably will be dominated by two-hand, but the leagues will not be dominated two-hand. There's not too many 180, 190 average two-handers. They are above 200 or they never get more than 150 and quit.
interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, in the pro shops we do see that quite a bit. Do you think the people in the future that will be one-handed and bowling lead, but not two-handed, is it because two-handed takes a certain level of athleticism, or do you think it's just that they're going to be bowling a long time and they started one-handed?
I think you need to be more athletic, I guess, to be
Yeah,
good two-handed. You need to be coordinating your body probably better than to get that certain level that you can enjoy it. You can go and have a few beers and have fun with your friends. Even you are not 200 over bowler, but if you are bowling 180s, 190s, you having fun and making most of your spares. And then if you are two-handed, you strike 4 times, but you miss every other spare.
yeah,
Averaging 140, it's not necessarily so much fun many
right.
years.
Do you think two-handed? Do you think bowling has a brighter future because of two-handed, or would bowling have a brighter future if we, as soon as Oscu and Belmo had any notoriety, we banned it and it was just one-handed? But basically, which path do you think is potentially brighter for both?
I think two-handed is not reason to like also like playing for downfall of bowling. I
Right.
think there's so many other choices for young people nowadays than 40 years ago, 50 years ago. How they spent their off time from school or work. So bowling has to compete that. I don't think two-handed or one-handed had nothing to do with that.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree with you, but I always like to just get the perspective of, I talk to different pros and different people, and obviously some have different opinions, but I certainly agree with you. Well, Mika, that was all the questions I have. Are you still planning on bowling the senior tour for a while? Do you have anything else coming up, like clinics or anything like that, that I can share with our followers?
I will bowl at more senior tours. I will bowl starting like mid-July and planning to bowl rest of the season if my body let me do that. And I'm doing some coaching here in Traverse City, Northern Michigan, individual lessons. I'm not doing any big like clinics right now. I'm open for if somebody wants me to go somewhere, they can work out something, it's even US or overseas. And I love to help other people to get better and having fun doing the clinics and helping people. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good. Well, maybe I'll see what our customers out here in Arizona would like. Maybe we can try and connect and get you out here. I've always been a big fan. Just your personality is so professional and stoic, and you can't not like 12-0 against lefties to start on television.
Yeah, I have a lot of nice records, and I'm probably most proud of that. 12-0, and you can ask for coach about that too. So he's
He probably is. Yeah,
yeah,
if I ever have him on, I will ask him about that.
yeah. Also, I have a nice record for like two lowest game ever ball on TV in BPA. It's against me, so maybe they were scared of me.
Yeah, intimidate. It's the accent, I think. Even for me,
Yeah.
it took a little bit to kind of get settled in and be like, okay. But absolutely. I was curious, is there any funny? I remember following you in Barnes, and you guys would make a telecast, and there was some kind of bet, and there'd be some kind of ugly pants or a haircut, or was there any bets or any funny stories you can share that maybe didn't make it to the telecast?
I'm sure there would be something, but I'm not sure I remember or it's there's so many funny stories, but I should be prepared for that to tell that better. It's like
Okay, maybe that.
there's like I have one funny story. Like I say, me and Barnes rooming together. We bowling in Fountain Valley,
Okay, yeah.
California. There's like 10 miles drive to Disney area, and our hotel was there. And I missed the card or whatever. I was not happy, and I have the rental car. So we left on the bowling center. I don't remember how Chris bowled, but he didn't say any word. And I put the rental car for first gear, and I drive whole 10 miles with the first gear. And a couple of times when he got too much, I'm driving like 45 in the highway and never changed the gear. But he was quiet. He was quiet whole 15 minutes there, and he didn't say any words. So
That's funny.
there's many stories about rental car on tour. So guys never
Yeah.
buy a car from rental car company for sure. Used car.
Yeah, I get a hard time. We went to Bowl Expo one year, the whole Virtue management team and I. It's like a team building event, and they bust my chops. I have a rental car story, is what made me think of it. Is we pulled into the place where they're having the big showcase, and I was on the phone, and early in the morning it was cold, so we had the heater on. But I think it was in Midwest area, and it got hot during the day. Turns out I got out of the car, just left it running, and everyone else got in. And so I left the rental car running in the parking lot for like 4 hours with the heater on. And so now, anytime any of them are in the car with me and we get out, and they're like, "Craig, do you have the keys? Did you turn off the car?" So maybe we both have funny rental car stories. But Mika, thanks so much for your time, man. It was really a pleasure. Hopefully, I'll have you back on again in maybe 6 months or 8 months or something, and we can talk about some of your experience in the senior tour. And hopefully, you keep striking as much as you have been.
Yeah, hope so. Let's hope so. I've been happy how I've been bowling in those couple of PPA 50 tournaments so far. So
Yeah, hard.
I need to keep it up.
Yeah, sounds good, man. I'm sure you will. Well, thanks again, Mika. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Thanks, man.